I'm here with a very special guest, Shelley Segal. We are so spoiled here the last couple months. We've had Richard Carrier, we've had Aaron Ra, Matt Dillahunty just showed up at the studio, and now we've got you. So this is, we're getting really spoiled. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Jim. It's nice to be
No problem. I've got some fan questions, and I have some questions that the hosts have collected together and to ask you. Okay. So we'll just get right to it. So this is called the Holy Tour. What made you think of that name?
So I'm promoting a new release at the moment. Mm-hmm. It's an EP, and it's called Holy. So that's why I've called, the tour after my EP. And the reason I called my EP Holy, well, there's some songs on there that I guess are under the same theme of what I usually talk about in terms of, secularism, mm-hmm. or freedom from religion as much as freedom of religion. And one of the main songs on the record is called Holy Man, and that's sort of a takedown of religious hierarchy.
Okay.
And so for me, it was really meaningful to call my record Holy and my tour Holy because, for so many years, centuries in fact, what is holy, what has been deemed holy has been deemed so by other people. It's been decided for us. This concept of holy and what is sacred and what is special and what is elevated or transcendent, if we want to use other words, has been decided by mostly men and by other people. And I was brought up in a Jewish tradition, and mm-hmm. so it was dictated to me, this is holy, these are the holy words, these are the holy ideas, these are the holy items. And so for me it was subversive and also empowering to be able to say, no, I don't take what you say is holy and what is sacred. I get to define that for myself.
Like taking back the concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving it back to the masses.
Exactly, and elevating ourselves. These religious hierarchies, these religious institutions, these holy men, they want to tell us that they're holy. They're holy above us, the masses, exactly, and God is holy, and they're separating us from this higher structure, this hierarchy, and they're lowering us, and I think that is awful. That's and good. Also untrue. So I'm elevating us, and I'm elevating myself and my voice and my stories and my life, my ordinary life, our ordinary lives, and saying, you know what? No, that's holy.
That's
and it's not
powerful.
any more holy than you and your life.
Yeah, it can be on the face of it though. It can be taken as ironically named. And do you have your recent shows, do people come to this with a certain expectation and they're like, whoa, this is exactly the opposite of what we were thinking?
No.
Like maybe you're a gospel group, no?
Not so much yet. I think,
okay.
I think people that come to see me, maybe they just see my music online, and not all of my music is secular themed. So some people come because they just like singer-songwriters with a folk Americana acoustic sort of sound. So they might hear other songs that I've done and other projects that I've worked on and just come to see me for that. Or someone might know my secular music and then they're not surprised. And when it's a show like, I'm doing a performance in town mm-hmm. with Metroplex Atheist. And so a lot of people that come from the atheist community,
right.
They know what they're expecting. And when it's a show like that, I do get straight into it. But when it's a more mainstream show and I know there's going to be people maybe that aren't involved with the atheist community or secular activism, I wait maybe till halfway through the set. I get them to like me first, and I just share a bit of my personality and my songs and more general sort of stuff, and then once people feel comfortable and they feel safe, they've let their guard down, then I sort of start introducing more of my political ideas, and I think that with any topic that I'm talking about, anything that's a bit more pokey,
right.
to put it away, I think it helps to introduce that later so that people are more open to those ideas.
That makes me think of there's a comedian, Tim Minchin.
Yeah,
he does the same thing. It just made me think of it, but he doesn't lead into his 10 or 15 minutes of religion bashing until well into the show.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's a way to get everybody on the same page.
So where did this tour start? How long is it going to go, and where are you going to end up?
Well, this tour started in Los Angeles, where I'm based. And we kicked off with an awesome show at Hotel Cafe. We opened for Radney Foster, who's like a Billboard charting legend. It was a very exciting show. And since then, we've been through Phoenix and Tucson. We played in Amarillo. And yeah, now we're here for the rest of our Texas leg. We've got Arlington, Austin, San Antonio, then we're going to Louisiana, and we're going across the whole country. I've got Rob J. Robertson, my guitarist and sound person and resident hair model, who is, we'll have to get him on screen later now to back that up. And we're driving across the South, we're going to the East Coast, we're going up the coast, and then we're driving back across. We are going around the whole country, and this is actually like the 11th tour that I've done.
That is
here.
Incredible.
So we are road warriors.
Yeah.
Road warrior.
Does it get to you over time? I mean, when you're done, how much of a break do you take before you start getting in the studio and doing something else?
Not long. I mean, I'm sort of excited to go back into the studio. I may even, hopefully, I'm working on other projects at the moment, get to go into the studio as soon as I get back to LA, and even go into the studio for another project while we're on the road. So it never really stops. And then I also have a Patreon, same as you guys, where I put out new videos every week for people. So I put out content every week and videos most weeks. So I'll be filming some of those on the road and recording. I've got my recording gear. I'm recording a podcast. So I'm just constantly going.
Remind me at the end. We got to put all those plugs in.
Okay, yeah, so, absolutely, for sure.
The Patreon and the podcast. Yeah, I was completely unaware you had a podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not out yet. I'm very excited to tell everyone about it. But I've started recording it already. But yeah, I feel energized from touring. Obviously, you need like a day of sleep when you get back. But
it seems grueling.
I didn't do a full tour last year. I just did sort of shows and conferences and stuff like that, like just one-off sort of things. So I've really missed this. I'm really excited to be back on the road.
Nice. You mentioned that you came from a Jewish household.
Yes.
Your dad was or still is a rabbi?
No, close. No, not really close. But so my dad.
Did he tour with? I think I remember him touring with you at some point, right?
So you're on the right track.
Okay.
So my dad, I was brought up in a religious, Jewish religious. They would probably call themselves traditionally Jewish household. I would call it sort of moderately observant, like medium Jews is what I say. medium Jews. Moderate observance. But I went to a Jewish day school, which was called like a modern Orthodox school. But there was it was a mixed genders, boys and girls studying together, co-ed, and we would still be around each other. The more religious schools, the boys and the girls would be completely separated. And then I went to an Orthodox synagogue, and that was the most religious part of my life. And there we had gender segregation, so the women and the men would
when was this? Because
be separate.
You've been identifying yourself as an atheist since 18.
Probably since 20, between 18 and 20.
Okay. So you had already pretty much left religion in the dust, and you were still attending?
No, well, I attended my whole childhood, and then I went traveling. I got to travel when I finished school, and that was really a big time of change for me. And I was maybe 20, 21 when I decided I didn't want to have anything to do with my tradition anymore. So, with the more observant parts of my tradition, because I was an atheist probably by the time I was 19, 20, and then it took me another year of sort of thinking, okay, it's not for me, but it's still a really positive thing for the world. It's still got this really positive force for the world. It does good, it helps people. So it took me another further year and some distance and time from my religion and tradition to say, okay, no, this is, am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
This is fucked.
Right on.
Basically, so then I started, really getting into secular activism and questioning things and skepticism and critical thinking and reading and learning, and that's when I started writing about the new way that I saw the world.
You were already into music at this time?
Oh yeah, I've been...
but your early work had nothing to do with religion?
Yeah.
Or it's been this secular tone the entire time?
No, so I was brought up, my dad is a musician, and then also just to go back to what you asked before, he was the president of the synagogue.
Oh, okay.
So he runs the synagogue.
All right.
But not in the religious capacity, more the
administrative.
Exactly. And Well, he still gets up and sings every week, which was not an honor that was afforded to me as a woman. I'm not allowed to sing unaccompanied in the synagogue. I'm not allowed to lead the congregation in song or in prayer at all as a woman.
That's a great segue.
Yes.
The first fan question is, leaving religion as a child. A fan wanted to know if the Jewish community is very patriarchal. And did you feel repressed as a female in that community?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's also quite complicated answer because there are different Jewish communities. There are different levels of observance and religiosity, and there are a lot of secular Jews that probably, will experience that from secular to extreme Orthodox. There's a full spectrum of communities and experiences, and I think there's also a full spectrum of oppression of women because the Old Testament, which our book is, which is our book, which is the main Jewish text. There are other texts as well, but they do, have I believe oppressive rules and beliefs about women and women's roles, and so I think depending on how religious you are, or how what constitutes your community or your involvement in the Jewish community, it will vary the extent to which you will be oppressed as a woman. Myself personally, I did feel oppressed by the fact that, as a woman, I was not allowed to be a leader, a religious leader in my community. I was not allowed to sing. My brother, I watch every week my brother and my father get up in the synagogue and sing, and I have a better voice than them. They're good singers, but I have a better voice. The community missed out, and there's these little things everywhere that tell you what it means to be a woman and that you're less. And women in my community will argue with me and say, oh, that doesn't mean that you're less. It just means that you're different, or you're interpreting it this way. And that's fine. You have the right to interpret it as empowering. But to me, it's disempowering. And I don't count. As a woman in an Orthodox synagogue or in prayer environment, you don't count towards the prayer quorum. You need 10 men. To have a quorum, and you don't count. There could be 9 men and 1,000 women. Doesn't matter. Without that 10th man, you can't have the service, and that's insulting and degrading. And
so you would find it illogical. You would find it illogical if someone said that this type of system is empowering for women. Similarly, like with Islam and say the burqa, many Muslim women find that very female empowering.
Yeah, I don't think it's consistent.
Seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, I don't think it's consistent. I don't think you can look at the language of the Old Testament and the commandments and all of the rules and take away the message that this is empowering to women. You may find a way to get there in your mind, and I'm glad that if you're able to at least not think poorly of yourself in that scenario, but I don't think that's intellectually consistent.
If it gives you comfort, though, that might be something. But still, yeah.
And for example, in high school, in primary school, we said every morning at a prayer between the boys and the girls. It was a call and response. And I said this from age 9 up. The boys would say in Hebrew, "Dear God, thank you for not making me a woman." And we would answer back, "Dear God, thank you for making me what I am," in Hebrew. And there are women that want to explain why this is not demeaning to women, but good luck.
I was first introduced to that practice by Christopher Hitchens in his book, God is Not Great. He talks about that specifically.
Yeah.
That's one of the prayers a Jewish boy will recite as soon as he wakes each morning.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you, God, for not making me a woman.
We would say it at school, and the boys would say it in front of us. This was a back and forth.
How demeaning is that?
From age 9 years old. So yeah, you can do some gymnastics to explain why that's empowering, but I didn't find it that way. So yeah, I did feel degraded, and I continue to feel degraded by a lot of the rules in my community, and that's why I left, and I take issue with them. And some people stay, in the community, and they try to change it for better.
Your father's still in?
My father's still involved.
How has your deconversion slowly to secularism and atheism, how has that affected your family life or your friends? Have you lost any friends over it? Or?
Well, I don't think I've lost any friends. I've been very lucky. I would say I know so many people in the secular world and in the atheist movement that, have been ostracized from their communities and their families, and I really feel for them. I like to say my family love me more than they love God because they still,
Yes.
they still, exactly, Shelley 1, God 0.
Right on.
They love me so much, and there's an unconditional love there, and there's certain parts of it that are harder for them than others, and there was times in my life that it was very difficult and it really strained our relationship, but we've always recovered. And I was very angry when I first found out that this was all nonsense, because I really believed it so deeply, so so I really internalized it. I really believed it.
Angry at
so
God
much.
or angry at the people that fed it into your brains? Yeah.
I said, how could you teach me all this stuff without finding out if it was true or not first? And I remember I started reading them the Bible because I wanted them to know what was actually in there. When I first started reading it with a critical eye, I'd studied it my whole life. And we learned biblical Hebrew at school. I speak Hebrew, so it was such a part of my identity. And so I was going around the house reading to them from the Old Testament, and I would say, Danny, this is my Father's Day, I would pretend to be God. I would say, Danny, this is God, you must kill your daughter. She is trying to pull you away from God. Because it says that if your child tries to pull you away from God, you should kill them. And you can't let anyone else kill them. You have to kill them yourself. So I was reading it to them, and they're like, stop, we don't want to know. It's like, what do you mean you don't want to know? This is your God, So it was, I was a bitch. But it was very tense. And so what we were saying earlier about
your dad,
my family, I'm really lucky.
He toured with you.
So
here he is playing alongside you all these atheist songs, and he still believes.
Yeah, he believes. We sat down and we went through every single lyric before I put this album out, and we argued it out. And we came to the conclusion, actually, he agrees with a lot of what I believe.
And he supports you, though.
He's a humanist. He supports me.
Well, good on him.
There was one line I changed because of him. That we argued about, and then actually I came up with something more biting, so I was happy. I was like, all right, I'll give you that. And then I came up with something better. So I did change something on him. One line of the whole record. My first record I put out was called An Atheist album, where I talked about all this stuff. And then a few years later,
my daughters love that one.
Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome. So in 2016, he came with me to perform at the Reason Rally.
This most recent one?
This most recent one. And he's a violinist, and he played violin with me on stage, and I was so proud of him. There's one song in particular that's quite, harsh. It's called Afterlife, and it talks about the negative impacts of believing in an afterlife rather than this one life we have. And then at the end, it goes into this, it changes into an old Hebrew prayer, and I'm singing in Hebrew at the end. And we'd practiced it, but just before the performance, my dad backstage said to me, he said, I don't know if I can play on Afterlife. I feel like it's a bit much. And I said, I'm so proud of you that you're here. You play as little,
hats off to him
little or as much as you like,
That's
don't
awesome.
feel obliged. Just, I'm so glad that you're here with me. It means everything to me. And then on stage, on that song, he came in early to show me that he was gonna play it. So I'm very lucky in that way, and I'm very proud of him. And he does what he can.
It could have gotten way worse.
Oh,
you know that.
He could have tore the stage.
No, you could have been born into a family that wasn't so,
That's it, and I know that so many people are in that situation. So I'm very grateful, and I also still push them. But he tries to make things better from within the community, and I'm really proud of that.
Reason Rally. I wasn't going to ask this, but you made me think of it. The turnout was the worst ever.
Well, there's only been two, really.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Okay. The turnout was way worse this time around.
It was worse than what
Would you say it's due to the rain, or would you say there's some socio-political schism that's going on in our community right now? That's you see like MythCon, you see VidCon, you see all I'm sure you're aware of all this rift between us.
Absolutely.
Where someone will sit in the front row and someone will call them a garbage human without them even saying, just their mere presence is polarizing.
Yeah. I think there's always been, different approaches between groups, and there's always politics in any sort of movement.
Do you see it worse now than it's ever been?
I think it definitely feels worse.
Is it affecting attendance in all these conferences?
I'm not sure. I think conferences have a life. I think probably some conferences are coming up and some conferences are ending and some conferences are doing just fine, the same that they've always been. So there's been 2 Reason rallies. There was one big Reason rally in 2012, and they had, there's been different estimates, anywhere between 20 and 30,000 people. And that one was in the rain. That was the rain. That was the rain. It was pouring all day, and still that many thousands, tens of thousands of people came out and stood in the rain all day. That was amazing. And then at the following Reason rally in 2012, they estimated having a larger turnout because of the success.
Is that right?
Of the first one.
Okay.
But it actually was a lot less.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And it's been, the reason I say it is it's been attributed to the socio-political rift that we have, that a lot of the keynote speakers were speaking on something other than atheism, pushing a different agenda that maybe not everybody in the atheist community is on board with. I'm
not sure about that. I thought that all the speakers were talking about atheism, but yeah, I know what you're
you know what I'm trying to say.
Referring to, and yeah, I think
I'm going to avoid the polarizing terms like SJWs because I hate that word.
Yeah, I definitely think that people didn't attend because of that.
No.
But I'm not sure why. Because even right up to the event, that they thought that was going to be that many people. So I'm not sure why they didn't come.
Yeah.
But there were still thousands of people on the National Mall, and it was awesome. It was a really great event. It's
hard to look at just 2 events to see a trend. To get a better sample size, we're going to have to see the next few Reason rallies, and then we can make a determination. I think it's a great idea. Any conference, boycotting any conference for the speakers that are there. I think, as an activist or as someone that in your spare time or full time is engaging with issues that you care about, I think that's great. I think you should, go where your passion drives you. It's hard to have passion and energy for things in this world when, for most people, getting by is hard enough. So if you feel passionate about something and you want to get involved in activism to make the world a better place, like you go for it and you do it in whatever way you think is best. You go to whatever events you think is great, and don't let anyone stop you, no matter what side of it.
Atheist Edge. Walking the edge of what some consider offensive. But your feelings don't matter here. Only facts. Edgy commentary on the dangers of doctrine, the foibles of faith, the bullshit of belief, the stupidity of superstition, and the idiocy of indoctrination. With razor-sharp wit, curiosity, and critical thought, we take an unblinking look at today's religions. We are Atheist Edge.